Hey, welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and I'm sitting with my friend Katie. What's up, Katie?
How's it going?
Dude, I am so excited. I don't know why we always start off with so excited. Can we start can we start something without being so excited about it? Although even
Well,
if
what
we
do
are
you have that
excited,
feeling?
I don't know. Just so excited sounds like so overdone and overplayed,
Sure,
you know?
I get
Although
that.
I say that all the time and I still do so excited, super excited. So happy to see you here. I still do it all the time there, you know. But on that note, what's going on April 26th and 27th?
Is it Presley Poe and Friends?
Presley Poe and Friends. Yeah, dude, we are back with Presley Poe and Friends. We're mega excited this year for it. Once again, Babyliss came in as our head sponsor, and who's going to be there with Babyliss?
Oh, the artists, right? They're so Presley, obviously, our headliner, who is a Babyless artist. Babyless, Babyless,
Babyliss, Babyliss,
Babyless.
Babyless,
I
Babyliss,
thought it was Babyless.
Babyless is Babyless.
It's Babyless. I'm pretty sure because
I'm pretty sure I'm
Emily
about to
hammered
get.
it into my head last
I
year,
was just gonna
and now I'm
say,
like,
no, no.
Give it to me now.
She's definitely sending us a text.
Yeah,
Babyless Pro,
Babyless Pro. Yes.
Babyless Pro showing up.
Okay, yeah. So Jeremy Stevens, who is editorial phenomenon, Joel Torres, cutting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and not just cutting, but he's also like amazing at like content creation.
Oh
And
yeah.
like I love anybody that's listening to this. It's Joel Torres, and Joel is spelled like Joel, Joel.
hmm
But I just love the content that he puts out. It's just like it's hard to explain, but it's so much different than what anyone else is
He's going to
doing.
be teaching a bit of that too.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really,
hmm
really cool.
I
Yeah, you
know.
definitely want to take that class there. Who else coming?
M Chen.
Oh yeah,
We
M
love
Chen.
M
Yeah, M
Chen.
Chen. She's like a superhero to some.
Yeah, well, she can do anything, and she's gonna like do that a little bit at the show. Like she's gonna do some color and stuff on stage, but then teach some hair cutting, and she's gonna just encompass it all. So
Yeah, I love her teaching style because one, she's hilarious.
yeah.
So she's so funny that I think it's just really easy to absorb what she's teaching. You know,
hmm
like you're totally engaged because you never know when the next joke's gonna come. She
hmm
reminds me a little bit of Jacob Kahn in that sense. You know,
Is that just because you see them all together, or she actually is the female version?
I kind of think she's the female. No. I think Jacob is the male
Oh,
version of
okay.
M Chen. Let's be clear. Like she's the OG, the
Yeah.
original. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. Who else?
Um, I said Presley. Dun, 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 dun,
We
dun.
have Los. We
Oh,
have Los.
Los.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Los is
he's
coming
coming
back.
back.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not used to saying we have a returning artist, but he was kind of our opener last year on the side while everyone was coming in. He was talking in a little bit about what he does, and now he's going to be showcasing that on stage.
I love that
I
a
know,
lot. I
and
can't
we're
wait to
really
watch that.
leaning into technology, and he does that like just seamlessly, like without thinking about it. So it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we're really excited about the Babyliss artists that are coming in, and of course the relationship Babyliss Pro artists that are coming in, as well as I mean I'm just excited to be in the room with them, and they're actually going to set up a tech booth there too as well. So
hmm
they're gonna you kind of show like the technology between the Babyliss tools and stuff. So excited about that. Also excited that Olaplex is they are sponsoring our VIP room. The VIP room is really cool. It's a very unique situation. And what you're going to get to do is before the show is get to hang out with the artist. I will tell you this. I'm pretty sure by the time we're recording this, that's probably going to be sold out. It's done really, really well this year. People understand what
Yeah.
those values are.
As of now, I think there's like 13 tickets left.
Yeah. So
It probably will be by the
you
time
probably
this.
will. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely go to the website and check that out. What they're going to do, Olaplex is giving away special swag for you, but for you, you're going to get it's like roundtables with the artists for the night. So you get a few minutes each with the you'll get a few minutes with each one of the artists during the VIP. It's only $100, and I can't promise you because I don't know exactly, but we always give away much more than even $100 in swag, and it's a real swag. It's not foil packs. So I would definitely check out also, what's really important too, and what's also a value with that is that with the VIP ticket, you're also guaranteed front of the room seating. So you'll have reserved seating at the front of the room. You don't have to, be at the back because you did the VIP. You actually be at the front of the room. So that's really cool. It's definitely a room you want to be in front of too, in the front of the room
Yeah.
too as well. So yeah, that's that. We have My Salon Suites showed up. They're going to be they'll be in attendance as well, and then we have a couple more sponsors.
Bounce curl.
Bounce
They're
Curl.
huge this year.
Yeah, Bounce Curl came in ginormous this year, and they actually are sponsoring the Shadow Presley Poe, and that's an incredible thing. We're doing a nationwide search. You just have to be in the continental U.S. to enter. Well, I guess you can be anywhere to enter, but to win, you have to be in the continental. If you're in Japan, go ahead and enter. I don't care. You're not going to win, but go ahead and enter. But we're doing a nationwide search for one person and one person only, and that person's going to get to shadow Presley for the weekend. And we're going to fly you in. We're going to put you up. We're going to feed you, and all you're going to have to do is hang out with Presley and be in her back pocket for the weekend. I get emotional whenever I talk about it because it's literally my favorite thing to do, is to be able to afford opportunity to someone to come in shadows for the weekend. I'm really proud to say that we've had 6 shadows. I think that's right. We've had 6 shadows, and 5 of them show up all the time. 5 of them keep coming back to the show year after year after year after year. So anyways, that's really cool. I'm pretty excited about that opportunity. Cool.
Great.
Cool.
I like it.
Dude,
I'm here for it.
Who's our guest today?
Oh,
no, you're up. What are you?
sorry.
Tony was so much better at this.
I
thing.
know. I'm sorry. It's because I'm distracted because of the
just don't be distracted. Just
sorry.
Talk.
Okay.
This is a podcast, right? Like you have to talk.
No, wasn't aware. Well, okay, so and my brain's like stuck on Presley posts, so now I have to like transition my brain. When you like do updos, well, you don't know because you don't do updos, but you do updos and then you have to transition back to doing a color client, and you're like, wait, my brain's not ready for this.
Yeah,
that's where my head's at right now.
Fair enough. All right, well, get to our haircut.
Get to our haircut. Okay, so our guest today we've had on before, and we loved talking with her so much that we needed to invite her back, and I am almost 100% sure this will not be the last time we chat with her. Her name is Andi Scarbrough, and previously talking just like a little bit more about her, we're digging deeper into that conversation. When was do you have that episode so people can go back and listen?
Yeah. So if you go to Spotify and go to season 7, episode 34, that's when we talked to Andi before. I mean, here's the reason we're doing this again is because we had such a great conversation last time that we're like, oh, okay, we need to bring her back. We have more to discuss.
We're not done.
We ain't done yet. Yeah. I think that we're gonna like really lean into people pleasing, and what that means. It certainly over the last couple of years has been a keyword within the industry. People pleasing. Now, I'm interested in getting in the conversation.
So much under that umbrella.
I don't. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Shall we do it?
Yeah.
All right, Miss Andi Scarbrough, welcome back to your day off. Is it a welcome back? It's a welcome back. Welcome back.
Hey, nice to be with you all again.
Thank you for the last podcast. It was so good, and there was so much information that was shared, and we just had a blast.
Oh my gosh, I felt like chatting with you all was like the slumber party where nobody slept. We just hung out and gabbed the entire time, and I'm so glad to be back because there is so much more.
Oh, there's always so much more. So is there an S in the middle of your name? Is it Scarsborough or Scarborough?
Thanks for asking. It's just Scarborough, like the fair. So just Scarborough.
Just Scarborough. No S. Katie.
Sorry.
Me off. That's all right. That's okay.
It's okay.
So Andi,
God, stop throwing me under the bus today.
No, I'm sorry, Kate. I know. I apologize. Andi, I apologize for throwing her under the big bus there. The S bus. So I think we kind of ended the podcast last time talking about people pleasing, and then but we didn't have time to kind of get into it, so we kind of brought you back so we could chat up about it. What's the initial thought about it? Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to give you my position on it, and then maybe we can have a conversation from that side. So I've never understood it. I've never understood why and You're
not a girl who grew up in the 80s.
No, fair enough. I'm not. You're right. Correct. I'm not a girl that grew up in the 80s.
Well, yeah.
But even with the people pleasing, I know that I go out of my way to please people. And I know that I go out of the way for people. I've never really seen it as a negative. I've never really seen it as a negative. And even when people talk about it, I'm so disconnected from what and I put this in quotations, but I don't really mean it, but like what they're their like problem with it is. Like I'm just so
Mm.
disconnected from that I just kind of wanted to dive into it a little bit and see, when is it a problem, and is it a problem in my life that I'm not identifying, or is it just something that I don't identify with?
Oh man, there's so much just right off the bat, right? Let's start to unpack that a little bit. And what I love about that is that you bring up the most important point about this, I think, is that everything, every behavior that we have is neither good nor bad, right? There's light and we would say shadow or unconscious attributes to any of it. So, right, tool or weapon, it depends on how you use it. And for people pleasing, I think one of the proof is in the pudding kind of tells is how you feel after you've done it, right? Do you feel energized? Do you feel more connected? Or do you feel depleted and resentful and, overtaxed? And I think that can be a really interesting place to start, right? Because it can be either one or the other, depending on your relationship to it.
That's amazing. How do you feel? I mean,
Mm, yeah. Also a lot. So I'll give you just kind of what I'm thinking right now. So me, the way I grew up, just was just always like, you're supposed to do things a certain way, this, that, and the third. Like you had no creative thinking, right? You just need
like
to.
there's an order to something.
There's an order,
Uh-huh.
and especially as a woman, you fall in line. Period. And so I feel like with the people pleasing, it very much affected me because with that, like connecting to that, because I'm always like, so people have to like me. I have to be doing everything right. My things have to fall in order. And that means I'm making other people happy and I'm doing what I'm supposed to and I'm getting a little pat on the head because I'm doing it right. Right. Like that's the thing that kind of for people pleasing. And
Do you
I,
feel it's more like a validation thing in your life, like you're being validated that you're doing the right
for a
things?
very long time, it was, yes, like I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. That's going to make people happy. And then I'm okay. And for me, there was a big transition, especially with going behind the chair, because for a long time, that was the beginning of my career was if this person doesn't like me, I'm going to be shit at this. Like my career is going to suck because I can't make people happy. And, and it's affected me in so many other parts of my life, like simple fact of not questioning my doctor on anything. I just do as I'm told. Right.
Hmm.
And so, like with the people pleasing, it's like, as long as I don't upset someone or, they seem happy with how I'm doing it, right? Like, then I'm okay, then I'm safe, if you will,
Hmm.
right? And it's been like I'm still in the process of transitioning out of it. Like when my neighbors first moved in, I
But
was
is
like,
there but is there an out of it?
well,
Right?
that's
Is the
the thing,
question,
right?
right?
So with my neighbors, they just moved in, and I'm like, oh, I really want, want to have great, I want to talk and have great relationship with my neighbors now, and but I had to be like, you know, it's okay if we don't have a great relationship. I had to this internal conversation with myself, like it's okay if I don't actually like my neighbors. We can be cordial, but not be friends, and there doesn't have to be all this thing. That conversation never happened before. That conversation
Mhm.
would have been like, I'm gonna bring her bread at every holiday. I'm gonna invite her over for stuff. And like, even if I don't agree with some of her values, it's my neighbor, so I've got to be this way. And that conversation is no more. So
Maybe your bread sucks.
well, then it's cookies. Whatever it is, I'll change it. She's not happy with it. I'll change it.
To the point. To
So
the
it's
Yeah,
point.
just
I
been like
think
an encompassing.
I love how you talk about that. It is so pervasive. And Corey, to your point, there is a huge part about where this relationship with like performing kindness, right? Performing
With the
in
emphasis
that
on
way.
performing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it origin of your social location, right? What's your relationship to scarcity? What's your relationship to power? What's your relationship to like social expectation or cultural norms? Like all of that is going to have a really big impact about how essentially secure you are in where you are in the world. And absolutely, there's a great book by an old client, Elise Loewen, who just wrote On Our Best Behavior, that talks specifically about the kind of history or wrongfully assumed history of the seven deadly sins, and how no matter what your relationship religiously with those, they get into the social fabric, and how we, especially as women, internalize a lot of that. So that's huge. Just both of you there in a traditionally male or traditionally female experience are going to be wildly different. And sometimes it can be good. I think that the there's no way to get into this without talking about, and maybe this is like chipping into a whole nother conversation,
Let's do it.
but the conversation around archetypes and like these aspects of ourselves that come forward to get a need met or to be a performer in the cast of our lives. So, we have the mom, you've got the good neighbor, you've got the good daughter, right? There are all of these different parts of ourselves, and we all have all of them. But if you're trying to get a need met or secure some safety, it may be that like the hero comes forward that's saving the day and rescuing your neighbor and digging them out when they're snowed in, or it's the martyr, right? Who does the same behavior, but again, it's our relationship with it that's different. So the way that we start to look at unpacking all of that is just to like bring it into the light. You hear a lot in spiritual context about like, oh, my shadow work or this and that. It just means the shit you don't know, you don't know. Like that's it. It's the stuff that you are not aware of, the parts of you that are driving the bus, trying to get some of those really deep need met. And Katie, when you talk about like, I want to be good, I want to do right, I want to belong, I think that is one of the most pervasive, real purposes of what's happening inside the salon world. And we may have touched on this last time, right? We think we're in the business of beauty. Folks, we are not. We are in the business of belonging. And so we get into this because we want to facilitate some of those connections for other people. But a lot of times, us performing for them is just a way to get those needs met for ourselves. So if we don't look at it, it can be like, it can be like the hungry ghost that just is never enough. And then we get into some other stuff before we jumped on. Corey, you were talking about imposter syndrome. So, like the people pleaser archetype unchecked can be a runaway train that will totally derail your career.
Mm. I, you know, imposter syndrome. I mean, I guess it goes back to even when we opened up. We're like, this is so exciting. I mean, that kind of fits into that. Like, where do I belong in this as well? Imposter syndrome's real though. Like I don't think it's anything. I've never felt, even as a guy in my mid 50s, I've never felt like I ever get past it or grow past it. Right. But what it is it's just something like is to identify it. I go, oh,
I feel like
this is imposter.
if you do start to get past it or move through it or whatever, you're leveling up. And now there
Mm.
needs to be a new thing that you are breaking through. You know what I mean? I feel like it can be at every level, but if you're breaking through it, then you're leveling up.
Mm. I mean, I think you're right. And then like your imposter syndrome is now just on a different rung,
Yeah,
right? Like, because I remember even having the conversation with Sam Villa, who you would think would not have it, but he still has it. He still, when he cracks the video, like he still like, does it. And he's like one of the best presenters, that's in the industry. I mean, he's one of the best
sure.
presenters there, but I know that, not that he struggles with it, because I think I think that's it. We all have it. Do you struggle with it, or do you push it aside? And not push it aside as ignore it, but say, this isn't serving me right now, so I
Mm.
do it. But no, I mean, literally every time I crack the video on, not in a podcast necessarily, because I don't really notice the camera as much as it is conversation for me. But like if I have to do like any kind of like reel, or if I have to, we'll be recording stuff for Presley Poe and friends. Like there's still that like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this thing.
I love that you feel uncomfortable though.
Um, I,
Like you should feel uncomfortable every day at some point.
I should feel
I
uncomfortable.
agree.
You should do
Yeah.
hard things.
Yeah.
That's a cold
I think that
shower.
means you're
Hard.
paying attention, right? If
Yeah.
you're, I had a teacher early in my career say I was going out on stage to present, and he said, "Are you a little nervous?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Good, that means you're paying attention," right?
Mm.
So I think that that underlying need that we're looking at in all of this behavior, Corey, for you when you come on, what I hear in you sharing that is, oh, I want to give something of value, right? I care about this. I'm invested in this. And in that way, I don't think that it's about um, moving through it or healing it or completing it or stopping it or like ignoring it and pushing it aside. I think when we talk about another, like, in the spiritual woo woo community, people talk a lot about alchemy, right? And that's really just transforming that into something that's more functional, right? If I have a moment where I've got imposter syndrome coming up, it's like, oh, I really give a shit about this. Like, I really am very invested in this. And it's also an invitation for me to check into, okay, am I acting inside my integrity? Am I outside of my values? Is there something that I'm exchanging for this that doesn't feel authentic for me? And that's where that voice can pop up and be like, you're a faker, right? But if I know that I'm acting in my integrity and I can recognize that nervousness as excitement, then the whole thing changes. And that's really the difference, right? Is it a tool or is it a weapon? And
Mhm.
then we can use it for energy, for connection, and to make sure that we're really giving our best.
I love that. We just had a woman on, and she's a evolutionary. You'll love this podcast, by the way, Andy. She's an evolutionary biologist. Her name is Dr. Rebecca Heiss, and she's extraordinary. But she talks about fear less. So how can we,
Mm.
using an evolutionary biology? She's also a stress physiologist. I don't know, a lot of ologists in her titles, but that's physiology. But what she talked about that I found very interesting, and I'm going to try to use it a little bit, is that fear and curiosity can't live together. So
Mm.
they're literally, they're like opposite sides of the hormone spectrum, so they can't live together. So you're either feeling fear or you're feeling curiosity, and if you're feeling fear, change the conversation with yourself and to make you more curious about it. I also think that, and what she was explaining is that you're either doing it for yourself or you're doing it for the audience, right? So certainly when you're talking
Mm.
about public speaking, like there's a lot less fear in bringing value to the audience than it is how do you show up and how does the audience see you. So it's just kind of like turning the camera around, and I would guess that's where the curiosity is too. Like the curiosity lives in like how can I bring value to how do they gain value over this, over how are they going to perceive me? I don't know. We can dive into that.
I love that. The curiosity piece, I think that's the key. I really think that that's the piece that unlocks that beginning of the awareness and the change. And one question for me that is always helpful, either when I'm in a situation where I feel like, I may be taking to a bread to a neighbor, right, when I don't have time for this, or discounting a client, or overbooking, or avoiding a confrontation. The question that I get curious with myself about is, what do I need here? Right? What is the need here? And sometimes it's a need to be liked, it's a need to avoid confrontation, it's a need to do well. And if I
Stop singing
can,
me, Andy.
Katie, and I am also a child of the 80s. So yes, we are the same in that. The Babysitters Club ruined our lives.
Yes. Oh my
Ruined our lives. So I think that that's a really key piece. So what is the need here? Like, who actually needs what here? Is just a way to bring that into our conscious awareness. And the other thing that I really feel like is kryptonite for the imposter syndrome is what I like to call radical presencing. So I am just going to speak the truth in the moment of what this is. And if I'm going on stage and I'm like in the sweaty, shaky, right, about to lose my thoughts, I'm just going to say, wow, I'm feeling really nervous to be here, right? I'm like just saying the thing that is in the moment. If it's a client that I'm feeling myself tip into that performative or self-abandonment or breaking my own policies or rules, I might say, gosh, I'm really uncomfortable because I feel this, that I want to help you. And also I have a hard time. A client who asked you to stay late, I think is a perfect example. Gosh, my impulse is to say yes. I really want to say yes for you. And just saying it is. And I know if I do that, it means that I'm going to be shit from my first client of the day the next day, or it means that I'm going to skip dinner. And here's another like alchemical magic spell. See how often you can change I can't for I'm not willing to,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, that's really good.
That is That is a profound shift because you think about like the I can't, it's so disempowering. It puts us into victim mentality. It takes away choice and all of your values. It makes it feel kind of hamstrung rather than making a really deliberate choice that is in the direction of what you value, what you're willing to invest in, and that climbing that rung up the ladder, right?
I,
It's the
Yeah.
power of words. It's like,
Oh,
it's like when you're a kid and you're like, can I go to the bathroom? Teacher's like, I don't know. Can you? May I go to
exactly.
the
Yeah,
bathroom?
exactly.
Right? It's just like that little switch
that's
that,
it.
Yeah.
to
It's
happen.
just a reframe, right? Just a reframe
Yeah.
of what that
And it
person.
really
Yeah.
does like, like, gives
Like,
you that like shift.
yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally, totally, totally. You brought up a confrontation. That's 100%. Like, whenever it's come to like a price increase, or if it's come to like a tough conversation, it's like where I land when it comes to it. It's almost always around confrontation. And I mean,
Mm.
like, I could certainly bring that back to my childhood and like where confrontations weren't awesome. Growing up, they were heavy and a lot of times left in violence. So I certainly can see where, like, again, talking in the salon where it was like, either, even if you have an unhappy client, like, what are you willing to do? I don't know. It's all, you know what, now that I think about it, I thought this was a great thing, but I don't know if it is. Like, certainly, well,
Valid.
let's chat it out, man. Like, it was, ever since I've been in the suite, I would much rather like refund you your money than do 18 redos. Right. And my
Mm.
philosophy was like I'm willing to do a redo once, but after once, I'm done. Right. Because at this point now, I'm just pulling money out of my book to do your hair and I don't work for you. You know what I mean? So I would rather refund your money and just be like, okay, we've done the best we can. I never want to see you again. Kind of thing. Uh,
Wow.
what?
That's
But
intense.
but that also might be more of like avoiding confrontation than it is avoiding
Right.
and imposter syndrome. I mean, I've never done
Right.
a redo where I didn't feel imposter syndrome. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
we're
Well,
worthy.
tool or weapon, right? What's your relationship to it? I also think that there's a difference, especially in these kind of situations, between public policy and private policy,
Mm,
right? So our policy is you get one redo inside the first 2 weeks, right? And if there's more than that, if it's more than just a little adjustment, then either there's a refund or there's a reconsult or there's a new fee. So you can have those places. I think where we sort of derail ourselves in that intention is that there can be this false bravado that does wind up being an expression of imposter syndrome, right? Where we want to be like, no, this is me, like, here I am holding boundaries, right? And what we've actually got is this kind of crunchy, brittle shell on the exterior of something that's very, very tender. And this would be a moment for me, and I 100% have done this with a client where it's radical presencing, right? Like, hey, I am really feeling sad and honestly kind of doubting my capacity as a professional that I can't get this right for you. And I don't know where this fallout is, if it's a communication or an expectation, but I am not feeling great about my ability to give you what you need. So I want you to have what you need, and I want to feel qualified as a professional. So I think the best thing here is to give you your money back, or, whatever percentage your own policy, public or private, is about that. But presencing that, I think, breaks down that crunchy shell and actually invites in a piece of vulnerability. And I got to tell you, Corey, like 100 times out of 100 times, if I've had to have that conversation, I wind up in a really meaningful exchange with my client. There was one time when she was like, I think this is actually about my dad dying and I'm feeling really out of control. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Right. So it's an opportunity for us to bring into that conscious awareness and bring forward the dialogue. What is the need that's really running this show? Is it about somebody feeling heard? Do they not feel prioritized in the rest of their life? Are you wanting to feel in control and qualified, right? So if we can just say those needs, saying the quiet part out loud sets everybody free in a really profound way.
I love how you've highlighted that too, where it's like, you know, hairdressers are all about setting these boundaries right now. It's such a, you know, it's such a like hot, you know, word, you know, to set this boundary. But I think that you really need to understand what that means because
That's
something's
right.
going on with that person sitting in your chair too. And there can't
That's
be,
right.
can't end up in battle. That's not what we're here for. We're here to make this person feel good.
I think that that's such an important piece in general, and it's that pendulum swing right of reaction. We've felt like we were pushovers, all right, well now we're going to puff up and like set boundaries and push back. And it's important to remember personally, certainly, and most definitely professionally, when at the end of the day, there is a financial exchange that's happening here that we are kind of dependent on, right? That the point of boundaries is so we can stay in relationship. It's not to push someone away. A boundary is set so we can stay in relationship.
A boundary,
So
not a
part
wall.
Yeah, so part it should be permeated, like it should be able to be breathable and moved through. And that breathing can be really uncomfortable, but most of the time it's not just a one part dance, right? It's two parts of that, say, chemical reaction, right? That creates that tension in the moment. It's usually not just one person that has a need. It's two people that have needs that either they're neither of them are aware of or they're in contradiction to each other.
Well, and how many times have you experienced where like someone comes in and you can feel their energy is off, but if you don't say something and you go through the whole thing, there's almost guaranteed to be something wrong or something, you know what I
Some
mean?
kind of friction.
Yeah, or there's something,
That's
you
right.
know, or they leave, you know, it's just whereas if you confront it, as scary as what that is, you know, hey, are you doing okay? Everything okay? A simple question of acknowledging the
Yeah.
pension, whatever it is, because it's clear when they walk in, right? Like, and this is kind of more of an extreme, right? Like it's you see it right away or
Sure.
you feel it right away. But something as simple as bringing it up or acknowledging it or looking them in the eye during their you know, the consultation and not through the mirror, those small
Yeah.
things really can like, oh, like maybe I didn't know they were like putting off that energy too. Or if
Hmm.
something is and they need to cry, like you're a
That's
good
right.
person to for them to do that with because they don't you don't know anyone else in their life and they can feel that, you know, have that moment.
Well, that's
I
that's
think
really
there's
you're up, Andy.
I think there's a couple really valid points in that. One is that there's an opportunity for relanguaging, right? So it's even that idea of like, oh, I need to confront it feels combative,
Sure.
right? Name it, claim it so you can move it. Just name it. Just name what is.
Change my verbiage.
Um, yeah, exactly, exactly. But it's like that stuff is in there, right?
Yeah.
If I say the thing that's unconscious. The other thing is, I don't know if either of you have read the Four Agreements
Yes.
or if you've read it recently. It is
Not
like,
recently.
read
I read
it.
it about 2 years ago. It's so
Oh
good.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be part of every beauty school education, right? Because the core part of that is don't take anything personally. Even when it's personal, even when they're like, you are a shit hairdresser, Andy, and I don't like your glasses. It actually probably has nothing to do with me or my glasses, right? So allowing that, assuming positive intent, not taking things personally, can really change the way that you meet that with curiosity rather than conflict.
You know, well.
I'm gonna give you my book. You
uh,
can read it.
oh yeah, I'll read it.
Yeah.
No, no. Send me the audio book.
Oh
I'll read it.
Lord.
Give me the audio book.
Mercy.
Well, I mean, first thing, if anyone doesn't like your glasses, I'm judging them. Let's be super clear about that. Um, uh, but you know, if you are confident enough to say, you know, you have to reframe it in your brain like, I know that this is personal, but I'm not going to take it personal. I mean, that's a
Mm,
lot of work on your end too. You know, I would certainly, in even like when you're a young hairdresser and when somebody doesn't like it, there's a lack of validation there. And as you get older, you're like, listen, I know I'm a pro, so you know there's something else that's going on here. You know, it just takes a lot of work to kind of even be confident enough to stand in those shoes and be like, I'm not going to take this personal. I mean, I kind of, this is very much a part of my practice now anyways. But it's certainly it'd be almost impossible to kind of do in my 20s because there's so much other stuff there that I'm working out, and confidence is the last thing that kind of like, you figure out. It's not where you begin. And it would just take
Yeah.
a whole ton a bit of confidence to kind of do that. However, even if you're feeling shitty about someone's comment, just having the mantra that this isn't personal is really good too, because I certainly talk
Saying it to
myself.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I certainly take a lot of that. Oh,
Do
even,
you say that when I'm talking to you?
oh, you asshole. No, but I'm having a mantra now.
He's going through a moment.
Just
This
go through a
isn't
moment.
personal.
Totally. Totally. Every time we talk, actually.
Every time, yeah, I'm
Every time.
sure. I'm sure.
So wrong. Yeah, yeah. But all of this stuff, I mean, again, that's kind of my practice is like if something's frustrating me, I kind of run it through like whatever mantra
Mm.
best
I
fits
don't think
for
that's
that.
an innate thing to do, though. That's not like the first thing you think to do. That's why you need a good mentor like Andy when you're in your 20s coming up in the industry. Just have to have someone
That's
help
very
you
kind.
navigate.
The
I
problem
think that you make a good point, Corey, about like when we were younger going through all of our shit. I mean, like Katie, you share about what it was like being a girl in the 80s. I came from like a very rough sort of upbringing as well. Um, I think you get how you get in the world, and those little wounds or traumas, whatever, that's kind of the raw material that we make our medicine one and from. And on that point of archetypes, I think the number one that shows up in the beauty industry is an archetype referred to as the wounded healer. Are either of you familiar with that one? Yeah. So for the listeners that aren't, there's kind of an old story about this like centaur medicine doctor dude, Chiron, who gets shot with an arrow, and it's super poison arrow. So he goes away by himself into a cave, takes out the arrow, kind of figures out how to make an antidote for it. And only once he's healed himself can he come out and heal other people. So I think looking at this work, understanding that most of us came into this work, creative types, people that have a lot of the same programming of people pleasing or imposter syndrome, there's some core hurt that we're looking at running this like drama through to try to get that approval outsourced. And if we are willing to look at ourselves, and I am like a huge proponent, I think therapy should be a part of hair school. Like, really look at where your work is and start there, because it will make you a better artist, a better employee or boss or friend or community member or partner or mom or whatever. um, when we do our own work, we just have more of ourselves to bring forward. And to your point, I think that like that confidence or looking for that confidence is just one way that we're trying to cloak that we're hurt. And if you're not careful, we've got approval addiction. And so then if you don't have your business healed, rather than giving people a sense of confidence and beauty and belonging, what we're really passing along to them is our version of insecurity and a lack of confidence. And okay, well, now I don't belong if I don't have the cool new thing, have the cool new hair, right? And so now we're in this cycle that's not at all healthy.
Mm. Can I read something to you? And I think it's
Sure.
relevant. I think certainly it'll go with the conversation. When we're young, we form opinions about our experiences with an undeveloped brain. Yet we often spend our lives defending these opinions as if they were absolute truths. Freedom and forgiveness come when we realize these early beliefs were shaped by limited understanding, and that everyone, including our parents, has been doing the best that they can. This shift allows us to go out of resentment, rewrite our stories, and live with greater compassion for ourselves and for others. Snap, 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 snap.
What is that?
It doesn't matter what that is, but it's something that I wrote. It's
Oh,
I had this epiphany, but I mean we'll get into it. I had this epiphany that like everything that I'm willing to die for, I came to the opinion with an undeveloped brain. I came to the
mm,
opinion before I was 25, and I was kind of thinking like, we get all the way to 18, and then we spend the rest of our lives in therapy trying to figure out what happened before 18. And we didn't, and
mm,
as 18, it was me giving myself forgiveness. But as like prior to 18, I don't have the capability or the, and I'm going to say nobody, but I'll put it on me. I didn't have the capability to judge what was going on because I don't have the life experience. You only have one view, and there's not even enough life experience there to even have like to take into other people's accounts or what they're bringing to the table. And B, literally our brains aren't formed enough. Like even in like a physical kind of way, our brains aren't formed enough to even hold on to opinions. You can have opinions, but give yourself the grace that you don't have to hold on to them.
I really love that. That was a beautiful piece of writing, Corey. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. I think, there's an interesting misunderstanding too that I certainly got like kind of my ass handed to me by a therapist at one point about this misunderstanding, especially when you know that there was some stuff that was janky in your upbringing that you want to heal. That we like, okay, let me just go into my cave, right, and get all of this stuff fixed up, and then I'll never be vulnerable again.
Mhm.
And I think that's also a misunderstanding, right? To be in relationship is to fuck up, is to make mistakes. And so, really looking at strength as softness, right? How comfortable am I being not knowing, offering vulnerability, sharing what I was wrong about, and that to me is the goal that I have and trying to live into it, right? How soft can I get? And that idea of soft hearts don't get broken, right? Is there's a pliability to the grace that you're giving yourself, certainly, and then that extends out to the people that you're with.
I am so glad you brought up the words not knowing because
Mm,
I can track that back to almost every frustration I've had in life. I can track
mhm,
that back to every argument my wife and I have had. I can track that back to just about every frustration is not knowing what to do next. And that can be even like
mhm.
raising kids. Like sometimes the frustration that you have with your kids is because you don't know how to correct this behavior or how to turn this behavior or how to whatever. And the frustration of not knowing how is what comes forward instead of, I don't know where I'm going with that, but just that I just know that whenever I search this, it's like it's the not knowing or I don't know what to do next where the frustration lives, most of
That's a pot of gold, man.
well
Yeah. I mean, whether you're looking at people pleasing or imposter syndrome, either of those is the fear of not knowing. And if I don't know how to make them happy, right? Or I don't know, I don't want anybody to know I don't know. There's
keep going.
there's a great Freakonomics, as an old one, Freakonomics podcast episode where they talk about the infrequency of people as they grow like CEOs, right? The likelihood that they are going to be able to say, I don't know. So the higher you rank in perceived authority or competence or power, the less likely you're actually going to be to say, I don't know. And so that's where you want to shoot the penicillin, right into that spot. If we had more people in positions of leadership or authority in whatever factor, whether it's your parent sitting down with you as a child and going, man, I don't know why this is happening, but like we're going to figure it out together. Or if it's someone in any other kind of leadership, companies or whatever, that is that piece of vulnerability that for me really denotes power.
I would almost offer it as a challenge if you're feeling frustrated. Kind of look at like, what don't you know?
Mm,
What's missing here? And for me, it's always been the next step, not knowing what to do next. My wife and I, we had to have we had to come to an agreement with our arguing style. Like when we're working stuff out, that if we repeat something, the argument's dead. Right, the
mm.
argument's over because once you repeat something in an argument, which we all do, right? Once you repeat it once, like the argument's over. And what happens is every time you repeat it, now you're on this hill that you've got to like defend. And sometimes that's like with words or actions that you're not super proud of. So once you've repeated it once, that's the end of the argument because it's not gonna there's no growth from that point. It only goes down that hill in a bad way, kind of thing. So I would argue that if in those moments that you feel frustrated, is to just try to observe or take note of is it because you don't know what's next, and if so, we got the world's greatest device here that knows all the world's answers right on your phone there, and like how can we get what tools can we use to figure out what is next or how is next?
You know, I would push back on that a little bit because I think
Please.
we are in a time. I mean, I'm so damn sick of talking about unprecedented times, right? But we are in a place where there's some stuff that's not in that phone. And I think rather than, and this is a little bit of that wounded healer approval addiction, the people pleaser, right? Wants to be in authority, wants to know, wants to have the right answer, wants to be in command. So when we start dissolving that like authoritarian inside of us, and are really comfortable saying, I don't know. I think about the unknown as like three tiers, right? There's I don't know. There is that is not known, and then there is that is infinitely unknowable. Like I don't that is unknowable. And I think that we often can be really cruel with ourselves and the people around us in thinking that we're working on bottom tier level where they don't know or I don't know. And so there's wrong making in that, when truly, like, we're up in those upper tiers of what is unknown or unknowable. And I think to be able to sit with ourselves and with each other in that degree of unknowing is is really going to be the freedom that we want.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I just how you frame things too. It just makes me or helps me to understand, just because I mean, think about just like little baby hairdresser coming out of hair school and having to understand, you know, you're not just getting into the hair industry. Like, there's so much more. You're gonna learn so
Yeah.
much about yourself. You're gonna learn so much about the people in your chair. I mean, how I don't even know how you set someone up appropriately for becoming a hairdresser.
Oh my gosh. I mean, buckle up and keep both hands on the wheel because we're
Right.
driving stick shift and four-wheel drive, right? There
Yeah.
is no, I feel like committing to this work is committing to your own personal growth and personal examination. Like, I wish that that was what was the last check on any licensure box. Like, I am committing to like doing my work for the rest of my career because otherwise I'm going to be confronted all the time. And it's where I don't know. I feel like I have grown the most in my work relationships and through my clients. I am 100% a better human being because of the discomfort and friction and tension I've experienced in that work. And part of it, oh man, when I was getting divorced, I was asked, and I was getting divorced and then I was dissolving a business partnership at the same time. And I told my therapist, I was like, why is the business partnership so much harder than my divorce? And she said, because that's where you're invested,
Mm,
right?
Mm,
And a lot of times for us, the material aspect is kind of the carrot, right? Like, hey, do you want to get paid? Do you want to eat? Do you want to be liked, right? And if those are the things that are going to get us on the mat to do the work, then that is where the universe is going to serve that work to us. So, no question for me, who didn't have some great like family attachment dynamics, right? I'm going to get served the opportunities to heal that stuff in my working relationships. And I think industry wide, there's a lot of people like the three of us that are in that same boat.
mm.
yeah, I
Andy, I
agree.
love this conversation.
It's so good.
I know it totally is. And we're just creeping on an hour now, so
Mhm.
that's
It's
extraordinary.
been such an easy conversation too. I feel like these type of things. I just keep thinking about like trying to prepare younger stylists for these type of things and how like hair school can become not just preparing you to take the test. And I just feel like there really should be. I know once you get out of school, especially some people, they need to start making money and doing these things, but I just keep thinking like, patience is a virtue. And if you can have patience and you can do it right, I mean, you just are going to be unstoppable in this business, both for your clients and for other hairdressers. Like you'll just make such big impact if you can be patient and really just like not only take the time to hone in on your skill, but hone in on yourself and, how you can be the best version of yourself for other people, especially coming into this because that's what this industry is.
But
Right.
isn't there something to be said that you don't even know that you have to work on yourself until you've been slapped down enough, right? Like if you haven't been slapped down, you just kind of think you're living a perfect existence. It takes the
I mean,
friction.
I don't know if it's slapped down or if it's
That was just a
just,
word, but you know what I'm saying. It's
well, so I guess a challenge, like having like a challenge or a situation that's maybe traumatizing or something like that. Is that what you mean? Like just something that's like really,
well, I mean, there's no working on yourself if life isn't challenging you that you need to do the work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Friction is what makes for refinement.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
I also have a belief too, and it's a little controversial, but like if I've messed up, I give myself 12 hours to wallow. So I give myself 12 hours,
Mm,
because I also know that if I'm not taking the 12 hours, or if I'm not taking time to be like, I effed up and I feel bad about this, I'm doing two things.
mhm.
One, I'm not holding myself accountable, and if I don't do those 12 hours, I'm going to find an excuse why my actions were right. So
I love that.
I
I
give
love
myself
that.
12, but then after 12 hours, I go, that's the learn. Now we move forward from it. But I think it's really, really important, at least for me, it's really important that I feel bad about when I messed up, because
Mm.
I don't, I strive not to mess up like all of us do, but then it just kind of seats it in. Like, yeah, remember when you were thinking that? I also live by this rule of guardrails. Like
Mm,
the guardrails are my thoughts to bad behavior. So if I can
mm.
stop this thought pattern, then the bad behaviors don't happen in a weird way. Um, so
I
I
think that's genius. Yeah.
so
I mean, because if you don't let yourself feel it, then it's like the wound gets stitched up without being healed on the inside, right? Like you got to have yourself
well, you're
those ugly
treating it as a
feelings.
scratch, and it could be a big wound, right? You
That's
need
right.
stitches, and the stitches happen. But if you treat it like a scratch, then for me, you find the reason why it was somebody else's fault, and you're not holding yourself accountable with that. But you also, at 12 hours, that's it. You've learned the
I would
lesson.
take
You move
your
forward.
I would take your 12-hour window and I would raise you one what I call a pity party. And I think having yourself a little pity party is great. And the best thing about pity parties is that you don't party alone. You have at least one other person that comes over and you have a good pity party with them. And that could look like whatever treats you need, like somebody just unfiltered. They are not giving you constructive feedback. They are going, that's right. Absolutely. You are a perfect little angel and they are terrible. And you get that pity party. Now, the trick is the people that come to your pity party are also on what I call your high council. So those are the people that are going to tell you, hey, listen, let me reflect back to you some things about yourself, right? Or some values that you have. And is it maybe true that you're feeling kind of sad right now because you violated your own values? So not during the pity party. That is sacred time. That is for cake and venting and nothing else, right? But after, those same people that you're going to come together and can really hold you in your upset without judgment are also the people that are going to be rooting for you to grow in the ways that you may not be comfortable doing.
And do you think that's a gender thing?
Ooh, I wish I could say it was that simple. I do not think so. I think that there are, again, social location, right? So there's gender, and then there's race, and there's socioeconomic experience, and there's sexuality. Like there's all of these different things. We want to think of it about, like, we want to picture it as a straight line, but it's not. It's like this kind of sphere. And so where you sit on that sphere, maybe like I think a little heavier for women and femmes, right? But I think everybody is more susceptible to these. And the sort of paradox in that is like women and femmes may be more likely to experience these things. We also have more language and permission for support for talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that, like we may get cut more often, right? But somebody who identifies as more masculine may just not feel like they have permission or resources to address the same wound.
Being the masculine in the room, I'll assume, is that I just the pity party would be. it would be more uncomfortable than it would be release. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So I don't, it's just not something that I would need, but I recognize, I mean, I watch literally my wife and daughter do it all the time. Like I recognize that there's that thing. And that's why I was kind of like, I was curious if it was more, and again, not gender in the sense of, but just how we communicate.
I mean, I just think it's a simple thing of getting it out and however you have to get it out because you can't hold that in because it will end up in pain in some way
That's
or
right.
another. Your body's, you have to let it go. For some people it might be working out. It might not be getting together with your best friend and chatting. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
whatever it looks like to you. I'm sure there's a version of it for you that you do. For some people it is, for me it's getting drunk with my best friend because she'll to me for hours on end. But I
Yeah.
only do that like maybe once every 2 or 3 months, you know?
Yeah.
So, and her and I allow each other the space to be able to just talk about anything and everything because we've known each other since we were 8 years old. And she's
Yeah.
like my one. Even my husband sometimes, and he actually does it more to me than I do to him. But I'm like, okay, we need to like clear the room a bit. Like, let's get it all out. Let's sage it and let's
Hmm.
on. And we have to put kind of some things in place, but you know who that person is, or these people, when you're talking to them too.
I'll tell you what,
So
one of the most
Yeah.
things about our friendship is that we can open up and be like, I need a friend, right now. Like I go ahead and release or let's chat this through, but let's keep it in that realm of friendship, and let's not have it affect like the business that we do together, right? But just creating
Right.
that, I mean, boundary border. I don't know what it is,
yeah,
but it's just,
yeah.
but it's just really like, hey, Katie, I need a friend. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Turn off
What I
everything
hear
else in the
about you
brain.
saying in that is like really setting up a container. And so you're setting up the container for that ritual of connection. And again, I think maybe women and femmes are have more social permission to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, I don't know, I think it's a really deep misunderstanding that just because you're a man, you need it less. It may be
I
more
agree.
uncomfortable, it may be less familiar, but I don't think that you need it less than maybe your wife or daughter do.
Yeah, I've just never gotten, I don't know. I mean, I can only explain how I feel about it, and like I've just never kind of needed that. I've never needed to vent. I've never needed to whatever. But, a lot of it just might also be that I try to give grace to everyone, so,
Mm.
so through
You'd never needed to vent when you're 18 years old. You never needed to release some stress on
yeah,
something.
yeah, at 18, certainly. But, I'm
Okay.
just trying to be the best version of myself.
Well, you're now in your 50s.
Well, you don't have to
You're
say it like
much
that.
wiser. I'm saying you're much wiser than me who's in my 30s.
I mean, I'm just smarter. That's all. No, it's all good. Yeah, we do this too,
Yeah.
Andy.
I
Because we,
love it.
'cause we can.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the container, right? Like, this is when we talk about the sacred space that happens behind the chair. It's because when two people come together like this, we have this agreement that just for this hour, just in this space, we're giving ourselves permission. Just the two of you in this room on that phone call, you're giving yourselves permission. And that's where, back to our original conversation, right? It's so powerful to set the intention that
Mm.
this is sacred space. And that's where, like, ritual crafting and really making these experiences ceremonial and inviting permission to have feelings that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. Like, that's the magic. That's the whole point.
That's amazing.
I love it.
Andy, once again, love having these conversations with you. How can people find you? Where can they locate you? Or any
They can find me on the internet. I've got too
nothing.
many social media accounts. I don't know if you guys are like that. It's like the list of them. Get a damn haircut is me, but it's really just pictures of my wife and some ducks and dogs. I go back and forth between whether that's private or not, and that constant whiplash. Crownworks, my old coaching platform, has been kind of unattended as I've been through focusing on my studies in religion and sociology. But I'm going to be coming back to that and maybe doing some live workshops again. So stay tuned there. And then, yeah, the day to day is really what's happening at the salon at Azalea Jane Salon.
Dude, what is religion and sociology?
Oh man, so this is, I mean, this is a whole nother haircut, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
really, we're looking at what I want
Okay.
to look at is exactly this, is where people are turning for these kinds of connections, the role, the social, psychological role of belief and story and religion and these kind of rituals or ceremonies or experiences. And in a world that is, turning more and more secular, where people are getting those needs met, and where there are opportunities to really contribute to social change, from what are known as third spaces, which a salon definitely is.
That's amazing. Miss Andi Scarbrough without the S. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on your day off.